Okay, time to hop into Calvin. And as I mentioned before, Calvin, very, very similar feet and shoes to what we saw in the Peanuts gang Sally kind of option and even Snoopy. So kind of a little round or oval blob like this and another oval blob that appears from behind. The same kind of trick of having this one on a lower level than the tip or the toe of that one. But very, very basic, okay? The big difference with Calvin is that we do see the side of the foot like this. And again, you know, it's not super accurate, so we really, really need to give ourselves a little bit of a break. What I love about Calvin is it is step 2. It takes it from just sort of blobs and flat banana-y shapes like this to something which has actually got an edge. And so I pick this up here almost as the edge of a sneaker, and then it's got this toe cap, the sort of round rubbery end of the sneaker, and the lacing of the shoelaces at the top to give us that roundness. But you can see there's the banana shape of the sole underneath. So very, very similar. And then you can see on the shoe at the back, here is the curve as it comes around his foot. If we wanted to show the edge of the sneaker there, we could put the edge of the sole like that. And we can take the curve of the toe cap round there. So Watterson doesn't put in as much detail as we could, but we can quite easily see how to put in that extra detail to get a more sophisticated result. So here, looking at these little feet, I'm just going to reduce the size of my pen a little bit. Okay, so here we've got our little banana sole. You can see how that just curves round, gives us the sense of that toe cap, okay? And then round here to get the side of the, what do you call it, the sole. And then here we've got his laces like that. And if we wanted to put in his foot, because Calvin, half the time Watterson doesn't show his legs at all. So if we are doing this more accurately, we can put in our foot like that. Let me just get rid of some of this detail here. So you can see I've already adapted that for something which is a little bit more shoe-like. If I reduce the width of my pen there, you can see we've got that going on. I'm going to go back to the red, and with a reduced pencil size, just if I put this in, it gives you that vertical edge for the sneaker coming all the way around the edge. That toe cap just kind of giving us the roundness, and these laces giving us the roundness of the top of the foot. And that is pretty much all you need to make a more sophisticated sneaker of this. Okay, here we've got the next bit of Snoopy. Oh, before we move on. So the good thing about this is you can see Calvin he's at that slight 3/4 profile, so he's not exactly side on or face on, and his feet are at that slight angle. So just the little curve of the bottom of the feet like that can give us that angle, and what enables us to show his shoe at just a little bit more interesting than the basic Charlie Brown ones. Okay, so here we've got pretty much like Snoopy, wasn't it? Instead of just having 2 perfect ovals like that, and Snoopy's feet were like this with just straight lines down to show the base of them, Watterson's gone a little bit more sophisticated. We've got this curve on the inside to show where the instep is. So these are almost like kidney bean shapes. Curve on the inside to show where the inside of the foot goes, and then this just to show the sole a little bit more interesting. And if we wanted to, going in here, we could show the inside of the shoe like that. We don't need to, but it just gives it that little bit more depth before we put the leg and the shoe and the kind of trousers and stuff going on there. So this shows the inside sole of that shoe, just giving us that little bit of depth. Okay, here we've got pretty much exactly the same thing as we had there, so I'm not going to go over this again. Okay, but our next one is here. Let's go and have a look at this one. Okay, so this one, what I like about it is that it gives us the underside of the sole, again, as he's running. So let's just backtrack very briefly here. In this first one, he's running again. Okay, so we've got the opposite with this one. We're seeing the back foot like that, and this shoe at the front we're seeing from the side. All right, so that's why I included both of these as running options, because it's this one is showing us the front foot from the side of the shoe, and the other option is showing us the front foot but from the underneath, so showing us the sole of the shoe, and that is quite helpful. Sorry, this thing's hopping back and forth. So that's quite helpful, because there we've got the round, or the kind of kidney bean shape of the undersole, and because he's used thick ink, we get that impression of the side of the shoe like that. Okay, so that is our vertical edge, that rubbery kind of edge of the sole, and then we've got the foot doing whatever the foot is doing under there. And this we're just seeing, again, because it's thick ink, we can, if we want to, we can use thinner outline and create ourselves that outer sole, and then we've got laces over the top there, bending round the top of the foot. So that's what's useful about this as a reference. And then here we've got feet facing to the left instead of facing to the right as they were before. So if we want to make these a little bit more sophisticated, we can take them like this, create that sole, bring this around just for a toe cap. This is where our foot would go in. We won't necessarily see the other side because the laces curve around the foot like that. And if you've got a long, more visible leg, in it goes to there. So that is how you would end up creating your shoes like this. Hang on, just got to bring it in slightly higher like that. So that would be the far shoe and this one side by side, similar to Calvin, but I've put in this sole, which I always like to do, and of course the toe cap is standard for a sneaker. So that is the slightly more sophisticated version of feet and shoes, moving on from the Charlie Brown Peanuts gang kind of look to a slightly more modern and slightly more 3D approach with some perspective coming in.